For all of you that are just joining us right now, we've already opened the meeting and had an executive session. We're officially out of executive session at 5:59, and I declare us in public session. There, I love my hammer and piece of wood there on the table. So welcome, everybody. We have a lot of things on our agenda, and we know what the main draw is for all of you. So with no further ado, we will go into communication. Adjustments to the agenda, Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, I'd like to add we'll call it 4A. We want to approve the nomination of Erica Gunderson as the kindergarten teacher of Winthrop Grade School.
Thank you. And then you could just go right into your superintendent's report, please.
Yep. All I have tonight is, well, I can talk real quickly, but we have the 2 resignations. This is how we're going to do that in the future for the resignations. Will be here. Christina Cole, Winthrop Grade School Ed Tech 3, and Todd Park, Winthrop High School Ed Tech 3. He's the person who's responsible for the alternative ed portion of our of that program. So he has resigned, and we have a list, if you turn the page, of fall coaches, which I have to tell you, we are going, this MPA is supposed to have some sort of announcement tomorrow that give us some guidance around whether we are going to have a fall season or not. It's kind of up in the air. You may or may not be aware that there are a number of schools, 2 that I am familiar with right now, that have already made the decision to not have fall sports. That would include Camden and Mount Desert Island, the ones that I'm aware of. And we did have our first of 8 days of training today, and I spent the day with the grade school, and because they're so large, we had to do the grade school in 2 sessions. I have the middle school and high school tomorrow. In addition to what I've done, what I did today, meeting with the 2 staffs, Brittany Ray is a person who we've contracted with to do trauma-informed schools. It's ACES, the ACES training program, and feedback that I got from the staff, pretty, just in a short time this afternoon, was that was very, very positive. And I've seen Brittany. I'm the one that reached out to her when we weren't able to have NAMI come in and do the training that we had planned, when we had to change from 1 day to 4 days, or four sessions. So I saw her last year. She's outstanding, and did a great job today. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like the minutes to show the school committee's appreciation for Christina Cole's and Todd Park's many years of service to the students of Winthrop schools. Under C, personnel, I'll entertain a motion to approve the nomination of Megan White as the Director of Teaching and Learning. Mr. Petrosky, would you like to do that? Oh, you have to unmute yourself, Mr. Petrosky. Mr. Petrosky, unmute yourself, please.
Did.
There we go.
Kristen,
Start again at the
Kristen,
beginning.
since you're on the committee, you should make the nomination, and I'll second.
Oh, see. Okay.
Okay.
I move to approve the nomination of Megan White as the Director of Teaching and Learning.
I'll second.
Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Ms. Shumway,
Yes.
Mr. Petrosky,
Yes.
Ms. Dykett,
Yes.
Ms. Bells,
Yes.
Ms. Geyer, yes. Motion is approved unanimously. Welcome aboard, Ms. White.
Hey.
We wish you well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll entertain a motion to approve the nomination of Lynn Bailey as Winthrop Grade School Grade 2 teacher.
I move to approve the nomination of Lynn Bailey as the Winthrop Grade School Grade 2 teacher.
Second?
Second.
Ms. Dykett gets the second.
That's fine.
And does anyone want to speak to Ms. Bailey?
of Mr. Ladd or Mrs. Randall are on. I see Jeff is on here.
Oh, Miss Randall's raising her hand. Go
I'm
for it,
here.
Miss Randall.
So Miss Bailey comes to us with many years of experience as an educational technician. She is so excited to be a part of our Winthrop grade school team and to be a second grade teacher. And as a matter of fact, when I left late this afternoon, she drove through the parking lot and said, "I'm still here," and then gave me a whole list of things she's been able to purchase for the classroom. So she's truly excited to have this opportunity to have her first classroom.
Oh, the enthusiasm is contagious, isn't it?
Yes, and she is extremely enthusiastic.
That's wonderful. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Ms. Shumway,
Yes.
Mr. Petrosky,
Yes.
Ms. Dykett,
Yes.
Ms. Bells.
Yes.
Decision is unanimous with my yes. Motion passes. Welcome aboard, Miss Bailey. Are you on with us this evening? I don't see anything happening. I guess not. I'll entertain a motion to approve the nomination of Matthew Breer as Winthrop High School math teacher. Who wants to make that motion?
I can make it. I move to approve the nomination of Matthew Breer as of Winthrop High School math teacher.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Do I hear any discussion? Is Mr. Campbell prepared to speak to? Mr. Campbell, good evening. Mr. Campbell. Can't hear you.
He's
Oh,
still
no,
muted. He's still muted.
you're
There he
still
is.
muted.
Now it's good.
Oh, I don't read lips, Mr. Campbell. So, Mr. Campbell, can I assume by the show of thumbs up or down that you are really excited about having Mr. Breer aboard? Okay, double thumbs up.
So
Thank you.
I can speak to him a little bit, Jenny, if you want. Miss
Okay,
the Chairperson Geyer. Yeah, I interviewed him as well. He came down. He is coming to us, a University of Maine Farmington student. He is not far from here. He did his high school schooling in Oxford Hills. Is very excited to be moving to the area and to have the opportunity to be at the high school. So I was pretty impressed with the young man when I spoke to him, and I know that I talked to Mr. Campbell that they had spoke to his references and got some positive feedback.
yep, I met him yesterday and he seemed pretty, again, an enthusiastic new teacher. So it's fun to see those. I'll call the roll. Ms. Shumway,
Yes.
Mr. Petrosky,
Yes.
Ms. Dykett,
Yes.
Ms. Bells,
Yes.
Ms. Geyer, yes. Motion passes unanimously. And congratulations there. Mr. Breer, are you with us? I don't see Mr. Breer either, but we wish you the very best. I'll entertain a motion to approve the nomination of Kristen Syed as part-time Winthrop High School social studies teacher. And I see her with her child right there.
Yeah.
Nice to see you,
Hey.
Ms. Syed. And who would like to speak? Oh, of course, we have Mr. Campbell.
I'll make the motion. I move to approve the nomination of Kristen Syed as part-time Winthrop High School social studies teacher.
Do I hear
Second.
a second? Mr.
Second.
Petrosky has the second. Thank you. Mr. Campbell, are you pretty excited about having Miss Syed? Yes, there you go, Miss Syed. I'm sorry that his audio is not working. Any other comments?
I guess I'm happy to weigh in too.
Okay.
Hiring Kristen is actually very unique for me. She and I have a connection before. She came to work here. I was really excited when I saw her name come across because of our previous connection. She's not a former student. I'm not going to get into what that is, but yeah, I've known her. She is she went to her high school. She's not that many years removed from high school, but she was a Bonnie Eagle student and has connections with the area. And she's a pretty awesome young lady, and we're happy to have her on board. And I want to just let the committee know, because I don't know if it'll happen before next week, but she is a 0.6 position. But I've already talked to her about the possibility of going to full-time, not necessarily social studies, but she's interested in it, so that may change.
Okay, thank you. I'll call the roll. Ms. Shumway,
Yes.
Mr. Petrosky,
Yes.
Ms. Dykett,
Yes.
Ms. Bells,
Yes.
Ms. Geyer, yes. Motion passes unanimously. Welcome aboard, Ms. Syed. We wish you the very best of luck. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve the nomination of Erica Gunderson for kindergarten teacher at the Winthrop Grade School.
I move to approve the nomination of Erica Gunderson as the Winthrop Grade School kindergarten teacher.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Do I hear any discussion? Mr. Ladd have anything that he? Oh, Miss Randall.
Yes, so Ms. Gunderson, she comes to us with 16 years of educational experience, some of that teaching experience being in kindergarten. It was in Florida, so she's recently moved back to Maine from Florida. And she was hoping to find a place where she can call home, and did some research on schools and decided that we looked like a place that she was very interested in becoming a part of. And so she will be our kindergarten teacher this year at Winthrop Grade School. And she also has lots of enthusiasm and passion for education.
Yay. Thank you, Miss Randall. If I was in Florida right now, I would come up to Maine too. Yes. For sure, I'd run. Okay, thank you for those comments, Miss Randall. Any other discussion? Okay, I'll call the roll. Ms. Shumway,
Yes.
Mr. Petrosky,
Yes.
Ms. Dykett,
Yes.
Ms. Bells,
Yes.
Ms. Geyer, yes. Motion passes unanimously. Welcome aboard, Ms. Gunderson. Are you with us this evening, Ms. Gunderson? No, okay. So again, sounds like I've said this too many times. I wish you the very best, or we all wish you the very best. Motion to accept, I'll entertain a motion to accept the resignation of Matthew Andreason as WHS math teacher effective the conclusion of the 2019-2020 school year.
So moved.
I need a second.
Oh,
Second.
sorry.
Mr. Petrosky has the second. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Ms. Shumway,
Yes.
Mr. Petrosky,
Yes.
Ms. Dykett,
Yes.
Ms. Bells,
Yes.
and Ms. Geyer, yes. Motion passes unanimously with a very big thank you for all of his services to the Winthrop students, and we wish him the best of luck as he moves on. I'll entertain a motion to accept the resignation of Dustin Weber as Winthrop Grade School Grade 5 teacher effective the conclusion of 2019-2020 school year.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Shumway,
Yes.
Mr. Petrosky,
Yes.
Ms. Dykett,
Yes.
Ms. Bells,
Yes.
Ms. Geyer, yes. Motion passes unanimously. Again, please let the minutes reflect that we all appreciate the services rendered to our Winthrop children.
Chairperson Geyer, can I ask a question before we move on to old business?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hodgkin, how many positions do we still have open at this point that we are going to want to fill before the school year begins?
I believe that there are 4, I think 3 at the high school and 1 in special ed that need to be filled at this time. And there are some additional ed tech positions that need to be filled. I'm not sure exactly the right number.
And is it looking promising that we will have people to fill those vacancies?
No.
Oh,
Actually, I'm going to be talking to Mr. Campbell tomorrow about, I think perhaps for special ed, I know that Mrs. Fawcett is on this, if she wants to share, but I believe she has interviews on Friday for that position. So yes, strong possibility there. Mr. Campbell and I are going to talk tomorrow about the positions at the high school.
Ms.
Thank you.
Fawcett? Ms.
Yes.
Fawcett, did you want to say anything?
No, we're the position that we're interviewing for on Friday is open educational technician position. We have 2 available at the high school right now. And so we're hoping that we'll find a candidate or 2 that can fill that. Otherwise, we'll be looking potentially at having to shift some staff around to do some coverage.
Thank you. That was going to be my question. Do we have a plan B? And you're working on it. Yes. Did that answer all of your questions, Ms. Shumway?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, we're about to launch into old business, which is the reason why all 63 of you are here on the most part. And I had a couple of comments. I had 3 pages of just a few comments. So I'll work through this really quickly. Though I'm going to go through it pretty quickly, it's all really pretty heartfelt. And so before we go into the main event, which is to go over the long form, I just want to say that the goal of this exercise is not really to answer all of the community's questions. The goal is to try again to contemplate the comprehensiveness of the long form of the plan. I believe that many minds are better than one. So if any of you out there believe that or notice that there seems to be a deficit of detail in our plan as we go along, please bring it to our attention by typing it out in the chat. And if people's questions get answered along the way, which they certainly did 2 weeks ago, that's a very good thing. If you haven't already, please go to the school website, then go over to school committee, down to agenda, and download or print out the long form. It's, I'll warn you, about 21 pages long. We will go through the form 1 section at a time so that we don't miss anything. Please try to type in your comments during the appropriate section. Last time people were asking questions, it didn't matter what section we were in, and I tried to delay them a little bit, and I tried to write down all of those that we didn't cover immediately. By the end of the meeting, we had covered almost all of them, and I think I brought all the rest up. So I don't want anybody's questions or concerns to go unaddressed. I want to just mention to everyone who might be typing in a question or a comment, please keep your comments and questions appropriate. This is not a Facebook page. One more thing, your school system heard loudly. This is to all of our community members that have joined us this evening. Your school system heard loudly and clearly from parents that they wanted their children back into in-person education. The ability to successfully get back to work, knowing your children are at school, is important to our whole community. Many people's countless hours, sleepless nights, worry and concern, as well as taxpayer money, have and is going into making in-person education safe for our students and staff, as well as us being able to offer a remote learning opportunity for parents, or option for the children of some of our parents. Attempting to calculate if our schools and classrooms have enough space to physically distance all of our people in the buildings initiated the sending of 2 questionnaires at different times to our parents. The first questionnaire indicated that 30% of our parents were going to opt for remote education and therefore would not be in our buildings. The school system was fairly sure we had space enough for the 70% who were going to attend and still maintain physical distancing. The second questionnaire indicated that only 10% of our parents had opted for remote education. Now we got a little more nervous, but most folks thought we could still make in-person education work while guaranteeing to our community proper distancing. If on September 8th, we receive 100% of our students back into our building, there is a possibility we would have to split our student population in half into 2 cohorts, thereby sending our students to just 2 days a week to school in order to guarantee our community that we would have the proper distancing. We don't think that will happen, but we are not totally sure. I just want to be majorly upfront with our community about that. One more thing. Next, our school is just a snapshot of our whole community. I'm sure people's opinions of the pandemic go all the way from ultra conservative to those that think the pandemic is still a hoax or will never affect them. This, however, no matter your pandemic beliefs, is a time for cooperation, not rebelliousness. Please be sure your child will cooperate with school staff about sanitizing, physical distancing, face touching, hand washing, and the correct type of mask wearing. It will only take one ill-conceived, unsafe visit with friends to begin the process of quarantining our students and staff that will lead us down the slippery slope of eventually going to all remote education. I don't believe there is anyone in this community that wants that to happen. So again, please, please, please talk to your children about all the safeguards we need to take, and please talk about what it looks like to be cooperative with everybody at school, even if it is personally inconvenient. As a community, we really are, and I know we hear this too many times in our lives, but I think this is so true right now. As a community, we really are in this one all together. It will be up to the whole community whether or not we have in-person education or go totally remote again. So with that, I thank you for listening to that, but I thought it was pretty important to do. With that, then, I would like to move on to, or we would like to move on to the long form, and beginning on page 1, part 1, physical health and safety considerations, symptom screening before coming to school, which is something I didn't just read in my little epistle that I just went over. But the symptom screening, we rely on our parents dutifully every day going over that symptom screening. The tool is on our website, and keeping your child home if they are not well, and then reporting that to school, please. So any additions, corrections, anybody? This is an opportunity for the community, for our public to go ahead and write comments. And so community, this is your time. Let's see if we have anything. Okay. All right. So this is your time, community, to weigh in on part 1, number 1, symptom screening.
Jenny, can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
I thought that we were going to put what the checklist was. Like what specifically parents need to do to screen at home.
Put it where? I'm not
In
sure
this
I understand your
document.
question. Sorry?
I thought it was going to be somewhere in this document.
Okay. Mr. Superintendent Hodgkin.
You're muted, Jim.
Mr. Hodgkin, unmute yourself.
How about now?
Good.
So I don't believe that was, the other members of the committee are also on this. I don't think we said we would put this in the document. I would say that on the website, there is a link to a number. I'm looking at the draft that we worked from. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different things that I have to deal with, various aspects of COVID guidelines.
Yeah.
If we'd have put that in the document, it's already 21 pages. It would have been 27, 28 pages. We just felt if you look on the website, there's a specific link for COVID-19 guidelines and such. And the screening symptoms is the very first one that's on. Well, it's the first one in this document. I'd have to look at the website to see where it is there, but it is. It's actually Melissa just typed in its link.
Right.
I thought on the it's all on the district website.
But it's not linked on the long form at all.
That was going to be my suggestion. Couldn't we just add that link to the long form?
Well, it was. I mean, the other members of the committee can weigh in. It was. We had all the links at the end of the page here.
Okay.
But then we took them out when we redid it and put it all in one site on the website. We took it out.
And so
I guess just my question would be, how many different documents do parents need to look at? And I know that, the first week or so when they do this, or the first couple of weeks when they do this, they will know what the questions are that they need to ask. But if someone's new to the district and they have to click on the long form, then they have to go to the website. And I get not making this 85 pages, but I don't know. I'll just leave it at that.
I don't mind if it makes sense as a for us to leave, because we had all those links in there. Dr. Jen and the nurses had put all those links in there. We can put them in at the end.
I think
I see you, Miss Chris. I'll get right to you.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, it's fine with me. For whatever reason, as a committee, we decided to take them out and put them. It's actually easier to find all those links on the website than it is to find the long form. But
And I remember one of the things that we talked about is if we had links in too many different areas, it would be very difficult to keep them all updated. That was one of the reasons why we thought if we had them all in one location, that might be easier so that they were actually accurate.
That's a good point, because it is hard to remember a lot of different places to update all that stuff. Miss Chris.
We were asked at the last steering committee, not today, but the last one, Dr. McConnell was kind enough to give us all of the handouts that we should not only post on our web pages, but mail home. I can tell you that from the middle school, they have been emailed home, posted on the Winthrop Middle School webpage, and mailed home. If a teacher doesn't get it one of those ways, that's their fault. We have taken care of business on our end.
So I guess I would just ask Mr. Superintendent if he would make sure that there was that kind of consistency that extends to the other two buildings.
so let me weigh in on that, because the Back to School Committee did meet just prior to this, and one of the things that the administrators are all on here, so I can say this. There are some other pieces to this, but we had talked about doing a mailing. We talked about sending stuff home at the beginning. We're now talking about doing a mailing prior to school. I'd like to have it out by next Monday or Tuesday. And all of the documents that were just being referenced would be a part of that mailing, as well as some other forms that we're going to ask people to send in. For instance, I don't want to take it too far off this topic, but acceptable use policy needs to be sent home for anybody who's going to be remote. Remote learners need to sign that acceptable use policy and then come in and get their device that they're going to be using at home. And so we talked about sending all of these documents that we want everybody to have home in that same mailing.
Perhaps just a general statement in our long form that to go to the website for the updated list of any links. Would that take care of it, Jana?
Yeah, I think that would be great.
I think it says that.
Yes. On the bottom, the last,
Yeah, it says the guidance for families will be provided on the WPS website.
What page is that on?
The first page.
It's in that first paragraph,
Oh, okay.
right
all
at the
right.
bottom of that first paragraph.
it's also on the bottom of page 20.
Yep. Is that okay with you, Jana?
Yep.
Ms. Dykett?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, Ms. Brewer puts in the screening could always change. I know WGS is sending the screen to every family. So it's going to get out to every family. I guess that's the important thing. My comment on that first section is it speaks directly to parents shall check daily to make sure that their child, and it could be in this long form. I try to go over it really carefully, but we also want to make sure that the staff are obligated to check themselves before they walk into the building, right? I thought I saw that someplace in some of our reading, but I don't think I saw it here in the long form.
That's a good point. Melissa brought up to me earlier last week, some people are saying at the DOE, the screenings is a little different for adults between kids. We chose to not add another document for staff, but I think there is no reason to not remind staff on this level.
I think if it's okay with everybody, just a really short statement that says something to the effect that staff also are obligated to do this personal check prior to walking into the building.
Yep.
And then if there is a separate document, that can be put on the website. How does that sound to everybody?
Agree.
Okay. Okay, so I had. So on page 2 of the document of the long form, still in the same section, the protocol for how parents will let the school know about if their child is absent due to COVID. And I think it says that they have to make a phone call. Is that right? Or doesn't it say? Yes, we'll need to call. Are they not going to be allowed to email then? Is there a reason for that?
No.
At least you would have a paper trail if they email. Any thoughts?
How if you just say notify the school?
Okay. That's fine with me. So you want to add?
I guess before we get too deeply into this document, it's 21 pages. It's the intent is, I think the intent is pretty good. I'm not sure we covered every single possible scenario. There's a lot of things that are not just this one, but a lot of things that are going to be subject to change, which is why the school committee had the wisdom to put in the Wednesdays for process and planning. But I don't think it was our intent. Other members of the committee can certainly weigh in that it really is about letting us know. They need to let us know. So we could say call / email, but it's really about, maybe the word is contact the school. But it's I don't know. That's my take. Other people feel.
No, that's fine. Notify is good. Well, okay, I'd like to go to section 2. Section 2. Unless anybody, school board members, you have anything on section 1?
No.
I don't see any hands. Ms. Shumway? No?
I just saying it was all covered.
Okay, thank you. Section 2 then, physical distancing and facilities. Community, this is your opportunity to make comment or a question about number 2 under part 1. While I'm waiting for this, as I was reading, adults must maintain 6 feet of distance. I thought it was redundant because it's all over there in about the masks. It's all over there on number 3, I thought.
Virginia,
Yeah,
I have a question.
Ms.
Hi.
Foster.
Yes, hi, I have a question. You mentioned that if we have 100% of the students come to school, that we would have to go to 2 days, or you believe that's what the community would want for safety? Which one?
It's our obligation as a school committee to guarantee the community that we will be able to maintain that distancing. With 100% in, with 100% in there, there's a little bit of a hesitation to say that we can do that. And if we can't guarantee the community that proper distancing, then we're going to have to come up with another plan. That plan. Now, I don't want to get on this because I want to stick to number 2 here.
Yeah.
And Mr. Superintendent Hodgkins might have a chat. I don't want to start a firestorm. I just want to be honest with the community that
Right.
there's a tiny bit of doubt there. But we think we're going to be okay because we think that we know that a number of parents are going to, we think we know the number of parents that are going to hold their children back for remote, hold their children back is the wrong terminology, are going to keep their children at home for remote. But you notice that there was a difference between the first survey and the second survey. And if
Right.
it keeps going in that direction, we may have to come up with a plan B. We don't think we will, but we may have to. And I don't want to totally surprise the community and tell them 100% sure
Right.
that we'll be able to do it this way. Superintendent Hodgkin.
I just want to report the, as of today, the number of people who are telling us that they are either going to remote learn or homeschool their children is it's somewhere around 85%. But I will say that we think that those numbers are low. We think more people will, and it will be closer. It'll be more like 80% or fewer will send their students back to in-person learning. But so 100% would have to be a pretty dramatic change of thinking. And we don't think that we got a good response from our community the second time around. So 85 is probably the highest number that we anticipate having.
I hope it does it because I don't want to spend 2 hours on that, Ms. Foster, if at all possible. Because I just wanted to be totally upfront with our community, but I didn't want to start a firestorm. Okay, we good, Ms. Foster? Thank you. Okay, so I was back with, and I need some of the committee members to help me. I thought where it says students who choose not to follow the expectation not to be permitted in school or school ground should be moved over to 3 because it's referring to masks. I'll get together with Mr. Hodgkins because that's not a comment about the content. That's just a comment about the placement. So anybody else on to So I'm just going to read the comments and questions that we have that apply to 2 right now, and hope that I don't forget any of the other screening. What is the school going to be using for cleaning and disinfecting? I think that's in another section, and I'll write it down to make sure that it's brought up in that section. And can students take off masks? Leah, let's talk about the mask. I'm sure the committee members or the superintendent can weigh in. So the question is, can students take off masks if the classroom allows for 6-foot distancing for everyone? Who wants to take that?
Chairperson Guyer, that section is section 3.
Yeah.
We covered-
Okay, I just violated my own rule. We'll wait till we get to section 3. I see nothing else for 2. I think we're going to be in section 3 shortly. Oh, Ms.
do-
Shumway.
Section 2. So at the last meeting, I had brought up that it didn't look like our category 2 or section 2 fully covered facilities. I see that the committee has added language about the additional cleaning time has been added. According to the CDC, they want a facility sanitation plan developed for each school, and I understand about adding the entire plan to this document and making this document more cumbersome. I just wanted to ask specific questions about things like shared spaces, lockers, bathroom use. I know that Miss Chris, and thank you, Mrs. Chris, for providing this. She posted on her Facebook page, I'm not Facebook page, I'm sorry, the middle school website, all of the specifics for her students in terms of using shared spaces, lockers, bathroom plans. I don't see anything for the high school or the grade school about that. So I'm wondering when that will be forthcoming and if that will be posted on the websites as well, and when that will happen.
Who would like to take that? This is when I rely on you, Superintendent Hodgkin.
I really don't know how to address that. It already feels like we're going through this. This document has been gone over pretty meticulously by this committee, 5.5 hours last week by everybody. I'm not saying those aren't good questions, but I don't know that this document needs to maintain that or have that level of specificity. I can say that we have contracted. I met with the person who we contract with for cleaning. We've hired them for additional cleaning for essentially all the things that Mrs. Shumway just said. The high touch areas, it'll be during the day. In addition to the stuff they're doing at night, I asked them for assurances in a form of a letter for trainings. I don't know the names of I know that's a different question, but some of the specifics. I want the assurances from the companies that all those things are going to be addressed. I'm not aware of the requirement that the DOE or the CDC is requiring us to submit our cleaning plan, or I'm not exactly sure what you said, Mrs. Shumway, but I'm not aware of that expectation. And I work for you. You tell me that we work. The committee works for you, and if you tell us you want us to add 20 more pages to this document to make it 45, 50 pages, I'm going to do it.
No, I think we're just discussing the level of detail that needs to be in there. I don't think anybody has a need to make it 40 or 50 pages, but our parents are asking some of these questions. And so if we can cover them either with a general statement or with a really specific statement, that would be helpful to our folks. What do you think, Ms. Shumway?
So can you hear me?
Yes.
Now I can, yeah.
Okay. So at the high school, first of all, the high school safety protocols are up on the high school page. Mr. Shaler put those up for us last night. But as far as FMS, I sat down with Jamie this afternoon and we went through all of the additional steps that they've been directed to do here at the high school, what's got to be wiped down, how it's got to be wiped down, what it's got to be wiped down with. So I do know that FMS has changed the cleaning protocols here at the high school. I'm going to assume that it would be the same, and it's very detailed. She was concerned about staff being in the building while they're doing it because they just do not want people going in behind them to desanitize, I guess, the hard work that they're going to be doing once students and staff leave.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How's it feeling, Ms. Shumway?
I just checked out that document, and that was what I was referring to. So if the facility sanitation plans or facility use plans are going to be done by building, then that's fantastic. But we do need to have that specific information up there for parents to access. And that was my question. I wasn't asking for it to be added to the document. It just needs to be taken care of prior to students and staff entering the buildings. I wanted to make sure that we had a plan since I was not privy to that plan up to this point. So I have it for the high school, I have it for the middle school, and I'm assuming the grade school will be forthcoming.
Do you want any additions in the long form, Ms. Shumway?
If it said, facility use plans are, are per building and would be on the school website or C-School website for specific information, that would be sufficient for me.
Can you add that, okay, Mr. Hodgkin? You're muted. Mr. Hodgkins, I'm sorry. You have to unmute.
Trying to be quiet. Mrs. Shumway, can you repeat that again slowly? I had some of it down. Facilities.
I have the facility sanitation plan, but I don't know if that is would be an accurate representation of what has been listed. I don't think the facility use plan would be a good term either, since that's something else in our district already. So you can come up with a name of what you want to call it. But I was just saying that this plan would be determined per building, and it would cover things like shared spaces, bathroom use, locker protocol, etc. And you can all mention that it will be listed, or it will be on the school websites.
Got it.
Okay, and I have to back up. Ms. Mialakis, I owe you an apology. I thought that the cleaning portion was coming up in the next section, so I asked you to hold on that, but it wasn't. And so I'm wondering, Ms. Mialakis, if you've gotten the information that you were seeking with the school going to be using for cleaning and disinfecting. So let me know that. And I'm going to go through the comments here. So we're going to get to masks in a few minutes. Ms. Syed, I will try to remember to ask your question in a couple minutes. And Ms. Riney, will there be an opportunity in this meeting to learn more about how remote learning will be conducted and integrating it with the participating students? I'm going to ask for anybody else to jump in here, but I'm going to give it a try. I think that the long form simply says that remote education is an opportunity that the school system is offering. And I don't think it's the job of the long form, nor is it in here to really go into specifics or detail about the remote opportunity. I think that as a school system, we are in our infancy as a whole of delivering remote education. And one of the reasons why school is delayed for student attendance to the 8th of September is to have an opportunity to, for our teachers to learn more about not only the hardware and software involved in delivering remote education, but also techniques that make remote education more successful with students. Our new director of teaching and learning was very successful with remote education last spring, and she will also have a big part in training our teachers on the remote education. It's quite odd to my way of thinking that our new teachers, the schools that they're coming from, it seems to me, somebody might jump down my throat in a minute, but it seems to me that there are no courses offered to our teachers going through school in techniques for remote education. So I think that if you're on tonight solely to learn more about the remote education, that you will be disappointed, but anybody can jump in here. Superintendent Hodgkin.
So I just want to add to that, and I think you said that very well, but I just, as I was doing my meeting with the grade school as part of the 4 rounds of opening school, hearing from the superintendent, basically my message to them all was that they really need to plan for what I would refer to as a red model. They really need to focus on planning for remote with respect to how do we get instruction to the remote learners, as well as get the information back, complete that whole loop. And the reason for that is all of the teachers who are teaching are very adept at in-person teaching. So if they, as you said, they're going to get additional devices, and so they will focus the majority of their time over the next 7 or 8 days preparing for primarily for the remote learners. But I mean, not totally, and that's not the only thing that they have to do. There's lots and lots of other things that they need to do over the 7 or 8 days that you allowed them to have. But the focus on remote is going to be a big focus of the planning that they will do during these professional development days.
So I think we did our best to answer your question, Ms. Riney, and to Terry. Mr. Stoneton, to everyone, put a document. I don't know what document that is. Oh, why? I don't know what that document is, Mr.
Jenny,
Stoneton.
that's the document that Ms. Shumway was requesting. That's what's posted
Okay.
in preschool.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Jenkins, thank you for joining us from the Town Council, Ms. Jenkins. What about a link to the guidelines from Maine and US CDC instead of including anything? And I think you're referring to, again, to Ms. Shumway's comments.
Correct.
And so Joel has put up there that link, and I think that would probably be the easiest way, Mr. Superintendent, to identify that information. Might be one of several ways to identify that information. Ms. Terry, I am concerned with the grade school specifically. We have received no information. And I'm going to go up to her first. That was long form, was remote education. So I hope that I've done a little bit more than muddy the waters about the remote education. It's a sort of stay tuned, and I hope that you will receive additional information from the principals or assistant principal there at the grade school. And if you don't, please feel free to give them a call or give them an email and give them a little bit of time as they're trying to open up school right now for our teachers to respond. But we do want to give you good information, but we can't give you information that we don't have at this time. And any frustration that you might have around that, I totally understand. But that's the answer. So, Miss Smith says, thank you everyone that are answering questions. We appreciate that. From Miss Stacy, will all 885 students, pre-K through 12, take devices home each night and bring them back? I think the answer to that is yes. Anyone else want to? I don't see anybody else. I don't see anybody disagreeing with me.
Oh, no, I'll disagree with you.
You're going to disagree with me? Oh, huh.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent.
That potential is there, but I don't think that's an expectation based on everyday planning that there's going to be all of our students taking their devices home every single night. Obviously, the people who choose remote will have the opportunity to, will be required to sign off on the acceptable use policy and have their devices with them, but they won't be going back and forth. I would say that the students who take them back and forth are the ones that the classroom teachers determine what work they need to do. They will need to all take them home on Tuesday nights so they can do work on them on Wednesdays, which is not a day off. So in that case, yes, all 885, it's actually more than that. Students will take them home and bring them back.
On Tuesday night. And I think that some of this question might also be a leftover from when we were discussing snow days. And if the weather is indicating that we're likely to have a snow day the next day, our hope is that we don't have any more snow days. And so then all the students will be informed to, or reminded to take their computers home, so that if we do have to do a remote school day instead of missing a day, we can do that successfully. From Ms. Brown, I would also like to homeschool my son, but I am wondering if and how I speak to someone about him getting back into school later in the year. My son is entering his first year in kindergarten. Mr. Superintendent, would you like to address that question?
Yeah, for anybody that has this type of question, if you want to do, the homeschooling is akin to remote learning. It's not in-person learning, I guess I should say. So anybody who wants to change their choice for their child would contact the school and speak to the principal. We are asking, because of the consideration that we have to go through with grouping and or possibly regrouping students, that they give us a 5-day notice of their intent to bring their student back to school.
Ms. Hooper, I'm going to disappoint another person here. Ms. Hooper, remote learning, there was a question last meeting about live versus recorded remote teaching. That is a pretty hot topic right now. Yeah, that's a pretty hot topic right now. Mr. Superintendent, do you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, actually, I think we've resolved that issue. Maybe not clear enough for the general public, but our teachers will have the opportunity to do their lessons synchronously, which means at the same time, and the remote learners and the in-person learners will be getting the instruction at the same time, or they can choose not to. They can teach the students in person and then record their lesson later or earlier, I guess, that theoretically that could happen, and provide that to the learners, and or either put it together a schedule and let them know when that instruction will happen.
That was a better answer, Mr. Superintendent, than I was going to come up with. Thank you. Ms. Terry, I understand this is new to all of us, but parents, especially single parents, need to make plans for remote education. The remote learning was not a real learning experience in the spring. I am not sending my child to the grade school for several reasons, and with the distinct possibility that schools may close with the increase of incidence of COVID, I am surely surprised that the remote learning has not been on the forefront of the minds over the last 6 months. I can tell you that it has been on the forefront of minds. I can tell you that several teachers on their own over their summer vacation have taken advantage of courses that have been offered by MEA, Maine Educators Association, as well as the Maine DOE. However, that being said, we have our teachers in our buildings formally now, and we will be giving them professional development around remote teaching. We all have in the back of our heads, even though I talked clearly that whether or not we do in person or go totally remote is up to our community, we all have it in the back of our heads that it is likely that we might have to go remote before there are any other solutions to the pandemic. And as the Superintendent Hodgkin has already said, that is, first of all, it's mandated by the state that our planning includes plans for green days, yellow days, and red days being the remote days. That's going to be fleshed out, but it is not fleshed out right now. And Miss Amy, if snow days may be counted as a student learning day, would teacher workshop days be considered as a student remote day as well? I'm not sure I understand your question entirely. You can let me know if I answer it incorrectly, but do you mean the Wednesdays that are going to be student days, but are going to be PD days or professional development days for our teachers? So it is our intention that all of our students will be given work to do by their teachers on Tuesday, and they will take their computers home with them, have them on Wednesday, and they will do schoolwork on Wednesday so that we can call it a student day and it can be counted as a student day. So let me know, Amy, if I misinterpreted your question and answered it incorrectly. Mr. Ainsworth, why do you have to have medical documentation for face shields when CDC says they are the same as a mask? Boy, Dr. McConnell, I'm hoping that you want to go after this, but I don't mean to put you on the spot. Do you want to take this? Oh, thank you.
Happy to. So early on, face shields were thought to be very similar in their ability to protect others if you're carrying the virus. As we got smarter about the virus and how the virus is spread, we got to a place where we really recognized that face shields are nowhere near as safe. So remember, masks, you wearing a mask is to protect the other person. If you have the virus and you don't know you have the virus, or if you do know you have the virus, your ability to spread the virus to others is way much less if you have a appropriate mask on. If you only have a face shield on, then it's nowhere near as good. Face shields are good to protect you. So we can go into why somebody would wear a mask and a face shield, but that's why masks. So we do want kids in school, and a face shield is better than nothing, but we want to use it in only limited circumstances when there's a medical reason someone can't wear a mask.
Dr. McConnell, then would you take a follow-up? Ms. Spencer writes, also regarding face shields, what constitutes medical documentation?
It's a note from your primary care physician or a physician. I guess it could be a lung specialist. There's really very few reasons why people can't wear masks. But it would mean a note from your physician.
Thank you. Now I'm going to try to go back up to Amy, because Amy, I don't want to get you frustrated, Amy, but I think you're saying something that we haven't even thought, or at least I haven't even thought of. So you're saying, so Amy writes full teacher workshop days. So for any of our full teacher workshop days, other than the 8 at the beginning of the school year, I think what you're asking now is, can we not give schoolwork, legitimate educational schoolwork to our students for the teacher professional development day to be done during that day, and also double dip and call it a student day? I think maybe that's what she means. Superintendent Hodgkin.
Yeah, that was my interpretation. I had a hard time understanding the question initially, but I would say that that's that it's not specifically a COVID issue or related to this document, but I think it's something that our neighbor Marinica started to explore last year, and I think it's a reasonable possibility in the future, but I don't think it's relevant to this conversation.
Thank you. It is an interesting idea, though.
Agreed.
Ms. Riney writes, we need a comprehensive plan for those of us who will be having our children learn remotely. It doesn't make sense to have individual teachers approaching remote teaching differently. The manner in which remote learning was done in the spring will not be adequate. Anybody want to attack that one? Superintendent Hodgkin.
I wasn't here in the spring, obviously, and I understand people's frustration. It would be great if we had every single answer to every single question, but so much of that depends on who's actually going to physically show up, whether or not we're going to designate some teachers who are going to do remote learners, and they might do multiple grades, but you know, a lot of it is really dependent on the number of remote learners that we have. Ideally, we will have somebody who will, you know, like I said, do the remote learners, so the teachers don't have to do in-person and remote. People can just do remote, but there's no way we can plan for that. And secondly, you probably should have said this before, and Mrs. White is on here. One of the reasons we're really excited, particularly with her success with remote learning in the past, is that Mrs. White, as a director of teaching and learning, is going to have some primary responsibility for coordinating the whole remote learning experience. Obviously, we want, you know, I will never say that remote learning will be the same as in-person learning, but I understand all of the parents who are nervous for a very good reason about sending their children back. And we're going to do everything we can. That's why I've said, again, I'm going to repeat what I said earlier. During our workshop day, all of our training and planning is around planning for RED. RED is remote. So, you know, we have a person who's going to be responsible for making sure that gets coordinated, in Megan White, who is hired tonight for Director of Teaching and Learning. And that'll be the focus of our planning, our professional development from now until the time we open school. When we begin the process of when we start doing remote learning, it may or may not be able to start on day one. For all the reasons I just said, there's still a lot of subjectivity. And part of it has to do with the focus of what are we going to do with our in-person students when they come back, students who haven't been in school since last end of March, beginning of April, and how do we acclimate them to the new reality being in school during COVID-19 time. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and I apologize. I'd love to be able to have every single answer to every single question, but so much of it is dependent on things that we won't know until we know.
Thank you. And I'll just add to that a little bit. I agree with you. We do need a comprehensive plan. One does not exist yet. And part of the PD, as Superintendent Hodgkin said, is to work hard at getting that remote plan. And then, thank you, Amy. Appreciate that. Just thanking everyone for working hard at trying to answer the questions. Mr. Petrosky.
I just want to reiterate that the school committee has talked at length with the superintendent and the administrators about the importance of bringing people up to speed on teaching remotely. And although some of them were able to take courses and some of them could do it a little bit, it's the whole idea of everybody being able to teach a quality education program remotely. But that also includes some help from the parents too. The students will have their own computers, but do you have the appropriate settings to allow these computers to work effectively? If you don't, please get back to the school principals, because we are trying to work with individuals that might need a Wi-Fi hotspot, may need some new wiring. We are going to all use the same platform, which was not used in the spring, which confused people when they went from class to class. But a lot of this depends upon asking you to help us get people ready for the remote learning. And I'm quite excited about the fact that the details of the 8 days that have just begun basically include getting ready for what if this happens that we cannot have the schools open. We will still have an effective remote learning program because we're preparing for it. It's the same way with buying equipment. We started months ago looking at the things that were needed here in the school, from sanitizers and wipes to looking at plastic, who's going to do the cleaning, all of these things. The steering committee led by Sue Bells has done a fantastic job, as well as the individuals, many of which who are on that committee are here tonight. So I really feel confident that we are doing what we need to do, and we've got some good people working on it.
Thank you, Mr. Petrosky. I just wanted to mention that the superintendent is leading that steering committee. I didn't want to take credit away from him. Of course, he thought that Sue Bells was going to be doing it. He was hoping, but that wasn't how it worked out.
Well, we did tell him, didn't we? Yeah.
He sort of found it out on the fly. I think, okay, I'm going to read one more, and then I think I'm ready. I think we're ready to go to 3. So from Ms. Hooper, my concern and food for thought specific to recorded remote teaching at the grade school is that the younger kids have a hard time learning an objective if they can't ask a question when they come across it. Many kids learn best when they hear another classmate's question. So I think Ms. Kelly is advocating for a synchronous remote. Thank you. I'm ready to go to 3. Is everybody else ready to go to 3? On page 3 of the 21-page document. Mask face coverings. Anybody? Ms. Shumway?
I just appreciate the specifications that come about this, which are covered in number 3, but then also more importantly, more specifically in number 5, which is PPE. So for the community out there, make sure you're reading both sections 3 and 5 prior to posting your questions to see if they're covered in either section. But most of what I had brought up last time was covered. So I appreciate the committee's work on that. Thank you.
So I'd like to piggyback on that, Ms. Shumway. I was going to hold it till we got to number 5, but since you brought it up, I'd like to hear Dr. McConnell's comments on that. I think that in number 5, you were more specific about the type of mask, what was acceptable for a mask to wear and what was unacceptable. I was wondering, I think I'd like to hear your comments about adding to the unacceptable list masks with valves so that the wearer can exhale, but can't inhale any virus. But I was wondering if we need to add that type of mask to the list of masks that we don't consider safe for our students or staff to wear.
Probably a
like to
good
comment.
idea, just in case, sure. Where it says no neck ups / gaiters or bandanas or
Right.
masks with valves,
Yep.
right? Sure.
Mr. Superintendent, can we make that addition? Unless I hear any negative comments, that would be over on 5 where we actually put that. Can you give me a thumbs up, Mr. Hodgkins, if that's okay?
How about if I unmute myself?
That would be okay too.
I was sneezing earlier and I didn't want to,
Oh, I see. Well, all you have to do is wear a mask and you're okay.
well, you still hear me.
I know.
So I'm not sure, I didn't quite, I was writing a note about a
Oh.
different section.
So Dimit, on page 5 in that top, we had put in no neck ups, gaiters or bandanas. Would just be really clear to say no masks with valves.
So put another bullet, no masks or valves.
Just with that, no neck ups, gaiters, bandanas, or masks with valves.
Yep.
Are we ready to go to number 4? Hand hygiene. And community members, this is your opportunity to weigh in on number 4, any hand hygiene concerns, or we'll try to answer your
Jenny,
questions.
1 second, can I ask a
Yep.
question? Back
Yes.
up a little ways, there had been a question about a mask and mask breaks. I just want to make sure that question got answered.
Oh, I
appropriately.
missed it.
It was
Thanks.
a
Do
while
you
ago.
have it right there?
Yeah.
Can you go ahead and read it then?
uh,
Because I think you're ready to take it on also, right?
Well, I think it's all in here. I think we really, thanks to Ms. Shumway giving us really good guidance on what we needed to add. It just asked about mask breaks. Could you take it off? Ms. Syed had asked the question. Here it is. Can students take off masks in the classroom? Allows for 6-foot distancing for everyone. And the answer is no. The CDC has unfortunately figured out that if you're in a setting, even if you're just 6 feet apart, but a lot of people, masks are off, there's a certain risk. They have an algorithm, there's a certain risk. So if one kid ends up positive or one positive case in a room where people have had masks off like that, the risk goes way up. We will have mask breaks, students will be distanced, and hopefully a lot of those can happen outside until the weather changes. But I think it's pretty clear in the document. I just wanted to make sure that question got covered.
Thank you. I appreciate, I don't mean to miss any questions, but
I know, that's why I was helping you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Superintendent Hodgkins, Miss Riney has written, she said that she doesn't need a response right now, but she writes not to hijack the meeting to talk solely about remote learning. I will put my thoughts into an email to Superintendent Hodgkins and Principal Ladd, but my little girl is so hungry for peer contact that having her shunted into a small multi-level class is going to be a poor alternative to learning alongside peers. No answer needed. I just ask that this be considered. Thanks. And I understand what you're saying, Ms. Riney, and I am quite sure that it will be considered, and I appreciate you not letting it have a chance to fall through the cracks by sending out an email to those folks. Thank you.
So, Chairperson Gary, I just wanted to, I've been a little challenging because I'm kind of all over the place, but I just want to let Ms. Ronnie know that I am about 90% done writing her a private response to that.
Okay, thank you. Miss Terry writes, I think this time would be better spent figuring, put remote learning rather than going through a 21-page document to revise the verbiage. I'm sorry you think that, Miss Terry, but that is the goal of our job right now, is to make sure that this document is as detailed to give our community the information that they want. I can't have a discussion right now about remote because that requires our teachers and our experts to have time to come up with a document and their thoughts and their thinking about remote education. Ms. Syed says, thank you. That answers her questions. Thank you for clarifying. And I don't know who asked this, it came in on the iPhone. Will students be able to use their own sanitizers? Also, will students be expected to clean their own work surfaces? Who would like to try that one?
Would they be expected to? No. We've hired additional staff during the day that'll do some cleaning. I don't know that we've weighed in. I don't know why we would prohibit students from bringing their own hand sanitizers in small quantities. We are limited by fire marshal code or fire code about how much sanitizer we can have. So, you know, I don't know that we've restricted it yet, and we certainly haven't taken any affirmative action to limit students from doing that. You know, if they bring in, you know, huge quantities, then we may have to limit the amount that they can bring. They can bring in, you know, it feels a little bit like traveling on an airplane. We might have to limit the sizes, but right now we haven't taken any specific action to say they can't bring stuff in.
I think that parents for years and years and years now have supplied their students with little containers of hand sanitizer. And I think part of the question is asking, can students bring in their own hand sanitizer? I think I'm going to ask Dr. McConnell to weigh in on this a little bit, but I'll start. I know that the hand sanitizer, in order to be effective against the virus, has to be at least 60% alcohol. And yet on the other hand, we're not allowed alcohol in large quantities in our schools because it's a fire hazard. So take it away, Dr. McConnell.
I think, I'll be honest with you, I think that most likely, sorry, I just caught my eye. The next question just caught my eye. I think that children should bring in their own hand sanitizer. There's hand sanitizer out there being made by ethyl alcohol, and it shouldn't be, and that's trying to get off the market. I got to use a little bit of the new hand sanitizer today. It's very, very runny, but then I heard that Jeff Ladd has a great idea of putting it in a spray bottle, which I think is going to work wonderfully. I think that if a kiddo wants to bring their own all natural hand sanitizer, I mean, I really think that the risk is low enough that that is fine. I think that is not a battle that we want to take on. So I think that's fine.
Thank you.
A battle I will take on, I'll just go down. There's why are Gators unacceptable? Can I go ahead and take that one?
Yes.
I agree with you. I think this is a struggle. The CDC hasn't even really come right out and said Gators aren't okay because of that reason. The problem is we can't have a mask is important. I think it's more important than if maybe your hand sanitizer only has 60% alcohol instead of 70% alcohol. That's why I don't think we should take that on as a battle. But I do think the gaiter and the mask covering, the face covering is very important because again, you're protecting others. And so I don't think it's fair to ask teachers or staff or bus drivers to take make a kid, show them their gaiter, take their gaiter off and show that it's a multi-layered gaiter. Instead, it's just simpler to say bandanas and gaiters aren't going to work for us right now. You can wear them on the weekends, you can wear them at other times, but in school, we need you to have a mask. And later on in PPE, I believe, we do talk a little bit about what's important for a mask to be a good mask. So that's the gaiter question.
Thank you. I'm going to go up. Ms. Abramson writes, my 5-year-old granddaughter is starting kindergarten. Is she going to get suspended if the 5-year-old has to be reminded to keep the mask on? And I would say no. There's a big difference between a learning curve and a lack of cooperation. So I'll refer you again to just my chat at the beginning of this whole session about, you know, we really have to have a chat about being cooperative, I think, with our students as they go into school. But our teachers love what they do and they love working with students, and we're not going to suspend a 5-year-old who happens to forget to do this brand new thing that we're all supposed to be doing right now. So
I think Josh is trying to weigh in.
Hi, sorry.
Thank you.
Can I speak a little bit to this?
Yes.
I had a kind of an experience this summer. I was running a summer camp for like little kids 5 to 8, and then I had all like the age groups, and I also had like middle schooler age groups. But this year I found like with my 5 to 8, I had them for like a limited amount of time, but like in that time that I was with them, they were very good with their masks and like they kept them on, and the little kids were actually better with them than I found older kids. So I didn't really have that much of an issue with kids not wearing masks this year. So I think it's not going to be that much of an issue, but I do see that concern. And thank you, Mrs. Abram. That was about it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Whaley. Appreciate your thoughts and sharing your experience. From someone on an iPhone, I just want to be sure that my children are not using Clorox wipes or other hazardous toxic chemicals to clean desks. No, we will be sure that that's not happening as well. Mr. Superintendent.
First of all, we're not going to specifically ask students to clean their desks, but I think we would be remiss if we say John Davinsky from, I can't remember who he works for, but basically he's ordered the sanitizing wipes, and I believe they are the Clorox wipes. And so in his position and he ordered them on our behalf, you know, we're not going to ask the students to use those, but, you know, they certainly are there. So I don't want people to think that, or find out that we had them and say that we told them it wasn't going to happen.
Okay, thank you. But the students aren't going to be using them. That's our understanding.
That is correct.
Yep, thank you. Ms. Breer writes hand sanitizer, yes. So she's gotten out her cheerleading stuff and she's cheerleading for hand sanitizer. I guess I'm just giving you a hard time, Ms. Brewer. And again, is there an ingredients list available of sanitizers being used? There's a government's list of disinfectants that can be used. It's called the N list, and you can go online and find that under I looked at it a few weeks ago. It's a government website that you can look, and I bet you Joel will find it and put it on up here before we get too much further. If Joel, if you could find that, that would be wonderful.
It's the EPA, Jenny.
EPA? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ladd. So it's an EPA, and I think it's called an N list of acceptable sanitizers or disinfectants that can be used. Ms. Hooper, the PTA Facebook page just asked parents to donate sanitizer and wipes. I hope you think that's an okay thing. So thank you. And Mr. Ladd, do you know anything about the PTA request?
No, but I don't have any problem with it. It
Okay,
certainly will, and anything that we can get will be helpful.
okay. Thank you, PTA. From Josh's iPhone, we all know little children like to share things. Is anyone else concerned about the younger ones showing masks, sharing things, etc.? It's very hard, I think, for them to understand that they aren't supposed to be sharing markers, pencils, etc. Mr. Deanda Whaley, you might be a really good person to address that. I hate to put you on the spot, but do you want to?
Hi, sorry. Yeah, we also kind of saw that. For us, it was a little bit different because we did sanitize like whatever they had for markers, and we had like individual packs for each of them. And I know it's different as you come into like school and whatnot because the kids bring their own things. But I think it comes down to the educators and the teachers, which I think would know more than I do. And I think they'll do a good job at like telling them like nicely that this is like an important time and that we need to like be mindful of our things and whatnot. I do see that concern because like kids do like to share things and whatnot. But what I found this year is that like if you just address them in like a kind voice and whatnot, they tend to listen, and I think they're pretty good. I think we don't give enough credit to our little ones, myself, but I think they're pretty good.
Thank you, Mr. Deanda Whaley. I just want to echo a message from Ms. Moody. I just want to echo that I think kids will do a better job with the mask thing than people think. I think they will too. In fact, I think they'll end up reminding the adults. I work with kids and they are required to wear masks when coming into my office, and they have had no problems doing it. I have faith in them. Yes. And all of the teachers do too. Miss Breer agreed, Jenny. They adapt better than us adults. Agreed, Jenny. Yes, I think you're right. Oh, Mr. Delisle beat you, Mr. Stoneton. Thank you, Mr. Delisle. Folks, you will see for the question about the government approved disinfectants, that end list there, you see the link right there. So I hope that helps out the person that asked that question. Ms. Moody, my 3 kids said they would rather wear masks all day than do homeschooling, ! A lot of these kids are ready to be back in school, and I'll tell you what, the teachers are really ready to have them back in school too. Ms. Jenkins, my 3-year-old grandson always points out those who are wearing masks. Why are they not wearing masks? So again, a comment that says that our younger students have every capability of picking this up faster than adults. And Ms. Spencer, where should medical documentation be sent to wear a face shield? I assume to every one of to their particular building principal. And I see a handshake, a head shake in agreement from our superintendent. All right, I'm ready to go to hand hygiene. I hope everybody else is too. We okay? Okay, so for anything in hand hygiene. Oh, this is very exciting. Anybody from anything from the community on hand hygiene number 4? Okay, I see from Josh's iPhone. I do just want to take a moment and thank all those involved in making all of these things possible. We appreciate that because there's been some people working very hard since the middle of June to make all of this work. And then we have all of the other people trying to implement all of this stuff. And you have to realize that schools, not only around our country, but around our world, are all trying to do the same thing and all vying for all the same products that are required to make all of this work.
Can I add something in hand hygiene?
Yes.
I'm hoping
somebody needs to, yeah.
I'm hoping the committee doesn't mind, but I think the third paragraph where it has before and after eating, before and after removing a face mask, using a restroom, this is probably redundant, but I would like a line in there that says upon entering and leaving a classroom.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you get that, Superintendent Hodgkin?
Got it.
Is that okay with everybody? Everybody else? Any problem with that?
Nope, agreed.
Looks like we have consensus on that. Thank you, Dr. McConnell. I think, I have something on, I have a comment here on hand hygiene from Jesse Stover. In regards to hand hygiene, I just want to clarify that children are not required to use the school supplied sanitizers. Is that correct? And I see Dr. McConnell's head is saying, yes, that's correct. In the past, this is from Amy, in the past, there have been sick kids from overuse / eating hand sanitizer. Is there any guidance on too much? So I'm sure the too much doesn't refer to the eating. I'm sure the too much refers to overuse all day long, and somehow the hand sanitizer, the ingredients are systemic, end up being systemic. Dr. McConnell.
Yeah, that's that ethyl alcohol. I guess I should know it better. I can get back to everybody and do a little research, but there were some hand sanitizers that were made out of the wrong kind of alcohol. And if that got absorbed, it could be very toxic. And so anything that we're using in the school, and really pretty much anything that you can buy now, is safe. I suppose there could be some older ones out there that could be not safe. But there really is no too much hand sanitizer. Really, I mean, I guess if you were bathing in it, if you were using it on places on your body with thinner skin than your hands, but I really don't think it's going to be an issue. I think a quick squirt from a spray bottle of this hand sanitizer that we have at the school is going to be perfect.
Thank you very much, Dr. McConnell, and I hope that answers your question, Amy. Okay, I think I'm done with hand sanitizer, right? Moving on. Number 5, PPE. Ms. Shumway, do you have anything in PPE?
No, everything that I covered last time was clarified, and I appreciate that work.
Anybody else? And public, community, please address your comments now to the section number 5, personal protective equipment, PPE.
Just for the public to hear, in case they missed this before, Dr. McConnell had suggested adding to the first section on page 5, the words "or mask with valves."
Right.
Somebody was thinking that and missed that. That's been added in.
Thank you. I know that's the only thing I had for 5. Okay, I don't see any comments coming up in the chat. Let's move to 6. Everybody ready to move to 6? Okay, return to school after illness. Ms. Shumway, do you have anything there?
I just wanted to emphasize that the resources that were put on the website around this topic are excellent. And if there are questions about it, I would suggest going to the district webpage and scrolling to the bottom of the COVID resource page, and you'll see return to school after illness. There's a link, and it gives very clear instructions as to what is expected. So, so I appreciate all of the clarification around this section too.
Dr. McConnell, I'd like to address my question to you, if I may. Under number 6, over on the 3rd column, it starts with staff members and goes on down to guidelines, must remain home until they have been cleared. I'm going to make a suggestion that I'd like your comments on because of my other reading, that in parentheses that say at least 10 days, closed parentheses. I just would like your comment on that.
No.
Okay.
It's interesting. I spoke at the middle school today, and that was helpful to begin to formulate some other questions. And then we talked about it at the steering committee this afternoon. The reason that we're thinking there's a really, if you go to some of those pages and we can get it, if you've got a very clear new significant cough, a new fever, and you go and get tested for COVID and it's negative and everything's gone and you're fever free for 24 hours, you may actually return at day 4. It's all different, and or 2 of the less common symptoms is another one. If you have stomach pain and diarrhea, essentially you're home. But if you then go to see your physician and the physician said, well, yeah, clearly the norovirus went through your family. Here's a note, go back to school, you're fine. You've been fine for 3 days. So we didn't want to put a day on it.
Okay. Okay. Superintendent Hodgkin.
I agree with everything Dr. McConnell just said. And in addition, for me, my first response was no. It wasn't that long ago that the quarantine amount of time was 14 days. So, I mean, hypothetically, who knows? Things could progress. We could go back to 14. We could go to 8. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I think to put a number in there that's subject to a change, in addition to everything that Dr. McConnell just said, is why I wouldn't want to put that specificity in there.
Well, and don't be fooled by Superintendent Hodgkins. I won't try to run a school, but it still could be 14 days. If I have a kid and my kid is test positive for COVID, has a positive COVID test, I am out, and I'm taking care of my kid, I am out 14 days after that kiddo stops showing symptoms. So if it takes till day 8 or 9, I still need 14 days to make sure I'm not going to develop COVID symptoms. Even if I test negative on day 3, I could still have the COVID virus. It can take 14 days to get a positive symptom or test. So we had this conversation at the middle school today. Some people can be out for 20 some days. It really, unfortunately, but if you have a positive COVID that you're in contact with, you are in quarantine for 14 days, even if you get a negative test.
Understood.
Thank you. And that's why I brought it up, because there's a little bit of confusion about that 10-day and that 14-day thing.
Yes,
exactly.
And they do really apply to 2 slightly different topics.
What we are going to have, what the staff are going to have is, maybe this would be helpful for parents. So suddenly a 5th grader doesn't look good, doesn't feel good, has a temperature of 103. That kiddo goes home, goes to the isolation room until we can get somebody to pick them up. Any siblings in the school are also going to have to go home because they have a most common symptom of COVID. we would be remiss if we suddenly felt like this kid could have COVID and his sister in 3rd grade lives with him. They both need to go home. Then we're going to have to work through, but we're going to have a spreadsheet so we know who those kids are. And then they're going to have to get a note from their doctor to return. Now, I see there's a note on here, you know, doctors are very, I should say, healthcare offices could get very overwhelmed and very quickly say, I can't see everybody. But they're going to have to clear you. And it's just not, it's a no-brainer. And so they may be able to do that over the phone and send an email, but one way or another, students and staff will need to be cleared by a healthcare provider before they can return to school in these scenarios. And these are tough ones.
Thank you, Dr. McConnell. And, you know, I was remiss when I was reading Amy's comment. It went to the bottom of my screen just only about the sanitizer. The rest of Amy's comment, I think you've already read and answered. I asked my children's primary care physician about getting appointments to be evaluated if they are showing any symptoms per the guidelines. I was told that they might not be able to see students in person. My concern would be the inability to get a doctor's note to return to school. Have the schools been in touch with local medical practices to ask about this? And I said, well, you know, one answer to your question is that we have the representation of a local medical practice in Dr. McConnell with us here. But I don't believe that any of the other folks have actually gone and communicated with other medical practices. Have you at all, just in your day-to-day stuff, Dr. McConnell? Oh, Ms. Brewer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've talked to local school nurses that work with one of the doctors at Winthrop Pediatrics, which is Kennebec Pediatrics as well. And they've told us that they're very prepared for what's to come. And it may be a lot of phone triaging, you know, with parents calling them, and then they give guidance on the phone and emails like Dr. McConnell said, or faxing notes, kind of thing. They are very well prepped as much as they can. You know, I know it's a moving target here and they're not sure what's to come, but so, and they, on the flip side, they are following the main Academy of Pediatrics, American, and sorry, I have a 3-year-old interrupting me. So they are following, go see dad for a minute, okay? They are following the American guidelines that we are looking at as well. And like Dr. McConnell said, what she just listed with symptoms and negative tests and what have you. And it's all, you know, they're written for them, and they know we, as schools, we are following that as well, if that helps a little bit.
Thank you. Superintendent Hodgkin?
I just want to really drive home the point that Dr. McConnell just said, because it's so, it is, and I don't use this term a lot, it is a no-brainer. There is no way in the world that any parent should feel comfortable with anybody but your primary care or a certified doctor clearing a student to come back. I'm not comfortable taking that risk. I would not assume that risk. I would not have any of my teachers, my nurses, the administrators. There's nobody who is not trained as a doctor should make that kind of decision. And I know that's a pain, but these are really difficult decisions and times, and it's not a time to take risks with the health of our individual students, of our teachers, or everybody. We've had too much happen, even here in Maine, where we've done a great job just think that it would be anybody other than your doctor. I know it's inconvenient. I know it's not great, but the alternatives are significantly worse.
Thank you. Matthew, I don't think your question is about return to school, but I think I can answer it pretty quickly. Matthew writes, how will there ever be enough subs for teachers? We've had several discussions about that already, and I guess I can tell you it's a great question. We didn't have enough subs pre-COVID to go around, and I suspect we're not going to have enough subs. I suspect we'll have even fewer subs post-COVID. In addition to that, our subs have to have added education about how to conduct themselves in school and around students, and bring them all up to date on all of the things that is going to take 8 days, that we're taking 8 days for professional development with our teachers. And so I know that we're looking into, through our adult ed department, trying to make available some coursework for our subs, but we don't want to make that so onerous that it'll chase more subs away, because as you've intimated here by your comment, we probably will not have enough subs. And so we're going to have to come up with plan Bs, which usually means our current employees taking on more duties, which we hate to do. That spreads them too thin. Next question was, by the same logic, chain exposures, have there been policies considered? I think, Dr. McConnell, this might be another one for you. Chain exposures. Have there been policies considered of how you're going to track transient educators, substitutes in multiple districts, if and when an exposure occurs, and the proper steps to trace contact? I know that this is a sort of a specific contact tracing question, but we haven't touched on, either 2 weeks ago or tonight, really too much on contact tracing at all. So if you'd like to take it from here.
I'd love to.
Back at you, Dr. McConnell, back at you.
All right, so there is a little paragraph in here somewhere about contact tracing. So first of all, that is the importance of wearing a mask. So if we have a positive case, if we have somebody who tests positive, and we can say that the 95% of the time, this kiddo or this staff member had a mask on when there was any risk of them being 6 feet or closer, and not a great ventilated space, et cetera, the CDC is going to breathe a sigh of relief. That's the bottom line. If, and it's possible that we are, it's in a situation like a special ed room or something where a kiddo is not wearing a mask, but only has a face shield for a medical reason, and that's the positive, then it's going to get a little more important to know who else has not had a mask. So that's the importance, that we know when mask breaks take place, and that kids are distanced, and that staff are not hanging out in having lunch together, debriefing without masks on. And again, at the middle school today, the mood was great. They were like, yeah, we can do this. We can keep ourselves and our students safe. But if we have a positive, CDC will be the main game in town. They'll be the ones doing the contact tracing. So if we have, that would be a bummer if we had a sub that had been in 3 different schools and was the positive. But if they had a mask on the whole time, unless they were outdoors observing a recess and everybody was distanced appropriately, then the risk would be pretty low. So I think just to bring attention to, it's very, very unfortunate, but it also was kind of timely with schools opening, the whole Millinocket wedding case. You know, that all happened because people were not appropriately social distanced. They were not outside and they did not have masks on. So if you start breaking all those rules, that's when you get into significant trouble. So I have faith after going to the middle school today and talking with folks and having a chance to interact with them and hearing their questions. I have faith that our staff and our teachers are ready to educate our students in a safe way. And I think there are just going to be some small things to work out in terms of the mask and the PPE and the social distancing.
Thank you. Does that mean you have 2 other buildings to go to, Dr. McConnell?
Apparently.
Love it. Mr. Dume, I hope that we answered your question. And I'm going to ask a question of you, Mr. Dume. Does that mean that you're signing up to be one of our substitutes?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to move on. I think I'm moving on now. Is that okay? Going to part 2, social, emotional behavior, and mental health.
Nope.
Okay, here I go. Prior to re-entry, prior to students returning to school, professional development will be scheduled with staff, so on and so forth. Any comments? Ms. Shumway, let me start with you. Do you have any comments? Any additions that you'd like to see there?
Nope.
Wow.
Oh, actually, I take that back.
Okay.
There was a section about communication with parents in the community, and last time I had asked for specifics about what the communication was going to look like and when that was going to happen. I feel like that our meeting tonight, and although a lot of important information is being sent out to the community in this way, that it's sort of become a forum rather than a working meeting, because we are required by the Department of Education to submit this plan to the department. So we have to go through it in this way. So I would just like to reiterate that if there's going to be a forum for parents and community members to specifically ask all of their questions, that we get that going, so so that anything else in addition to the questions that have been raised tonight, that parents have the opportunity for that, because I don't see specifics, or I haven't heard any specifics about that.
Any comment about that, Superintendent Hodgkin?
Not specifically. I do want to say that I think I'm sure the community doesn't really necessarily want to hear this, but I think it's important that we share this. I think the reason that we're doing a Zoom meeting tonight was the collective wisdom of the chair and the vice chair in recognizing that last 2 weeks ago, when we had our 5.5-hour marathon meeting, that we had 96 people on the Zoom at one time, and tonight we're over 70, still at 71, and we could not do this unless we did it via Zoom, because we can't have more than 50 people in the gathering. So the best way to get any opportunities for public is this way. I guess I would ask the board, maybe we can talk about it next week at our meeting, about if you want to do a forum, and Ms. Shumway is correct. This is not really supposed to be a forum, although it has turned into that somewhat. If we want to do a specific forum, then we need to schedule it, and the school committee needs to make that decision about how we're going to do it, because same thing. We have a forum, we're probably going to have more than 50 people show up for it, the way things are kind of going, and we can't do that any other way except via Zoom or whatever. There's a couple other ways, but that's the most efficient way. And this is not really efficient to have 71 people listening to one person speak at a time.
Thank you. And Ms. Shumway, let's keep that on your notes of things to discuss at another date.
I just
another
wanted
time.
to add also that there has been frequently asked questions added to our website. So that's another way that we've communicated.
So all of our community parents out there, you might want to check that frequently asked questions Superintendent Hodgkins put together in large part from Ms. Shumway's thoughts. And that is on our website right now. Superintendent Hodgkins.
So in addition to that, but I still think this conversation needs to go in a different direction. But in addition to the frequently asked questions, I also did a video of essentially reading. I don't know. I know that Tiff was on earlier. I don't know if she's still there, but Tiff Shaw did that recording, and I'm not sure exactly if that's been posted. I didn't look for it. I reviewed it, and we've talked about it, and so you know, that's another possibility. But I don't think that's exact. I still don't think that's exactly what Mrs. Shumway was talking about.
That video is posted.
We're going to have to bring that up at another time, I think.
That video.
Whoop.
That video is, excuse me, this is Tip Shaw.
Oh.
That video is posted. It is right under the frequently asked questions document on the website.
I was
Ross
listening to a
Shaler
little bit
posted that.
tonight. Yeah. Thank you, Ms.
Tiff.
Shaw. Ms. Riney writes, about an in-person forum, the committee needs to consider that not everyone has access to a computer or the knowledge needed to connect via Zoom. True. Thank you for that. Agreed. I'm going to move on to B, structuring reentry to support the unique needs of your school community. Ms. Shumway, do you have anything?
No.
I have a note to myself in the margin down near the end of that section, right before the last paragraph. Since it, let's see. Why did I write to myself, if it turns red? I think I was indicating that we should answer the question if it turns red in that section. But it's not making a lot of sense to me right now. So I'm going to withdraw that. Dan Dumais says he's not signing up to be a superintendent, and he thanks Dr. McConnell for the thorough answer. Okay, I'm going to move on to C, ongoing. Ms. Shumway?
Nothing on this section.
Anybody else? I have nothing on this section. Anybody from the community? Okay, thank you. Moving on to part 3, academic programs and student learning. Part A, WPS established a steering committee. Anything to add there?
No.
I'll start with you, Ms. Shumway.
Nope.
No, neither. Anybody else? Anyone? Mr. Jenkins writes, if red would probably a longer time and grouping by other needs may be advisable. Yes. Yes. I know what you mean by that, Ms. Jenkins. Probably will be. Thank you. So I think we got through A. How about B? Consider flexible grouping, multi-age classroom looping, interdisciplinary courses, and units. Ms. Shumway, anything?
Nothing that hasn't already been covered earlier on in the meeting. We spent quite a bit of time about about this and the need for that comprehensive plan. And I'll
Yep.
just repeat that our professional development that is going on right now is looking at all of those remote learning options and planning for that.
Thank you. Anybody else, including the community? Seeing none. C, formative assessment. Ms. Shumway, you have anything there?
Nothing new. Nope. Good with that.
Superintendent Hodgkins or Ms. White, I just have a note on C after there's only 2 paragraphs after the second paragraph, expecting students to demonstrate learning at the highest level. I wondered if, with some of our previous conversations, if we wanted to add anything in there about summative assessment at the beginning of the school year.
That would be formative assessment. Summative is are you talking about checking to see where they're at with the regression?
I'm checking about like a NUIA.
I don't know. I would necessarily put that in this plan. That I mentioned earlier that I got specific plans from the grade school and the middle school about their plans for NUIA and that type of testing. So.
So you think that we've already talked that one out, and we are going to do our very best. And I know we had that chat with Ms. White as well. We are going to do our very best to figure out how to put students in a place where they can be successful with this year's classes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. From Amy. Oh, I was going to say, I'm sorry, I don't understand that. But then we'll go on to Ms. Riney. Very interested in how formative assessments will be conducted remotely. Assessments were thrown out the window for the spring. Yes, agreed. And that's part of, I know you're probably getting pretty tired, Ms. Riney, of hearing me say that that is going to be part of the discussion in the 8 days of professional development at the beginning of the school year here. But that's the answer to your question.
Can I address that even more? And
Sure.
This is not just for responding to this one, but I think we've heard loud and clear from this community. I know loud and clear from the.
He's frozen.
You should turn the furnace on.
Mr. Delisle, what is your recommendation for unfreezing Superintendent Hodgkin?
This year. And,
okay. Mr. Hodgkin, may I interrupt you? You were frozen all the way from your first words that you wanted to address the community and that you've heard loudly and clearly, and you were frozen from then on. So you have to start.
I just want to say that we've heard that the community was not happy with the remote learning last year, and that we focused, the whole focus of the professional development days and the Wednesdays is to make sure that we are doing a far more effective job. One of the things we talked about specifically today, today was just a grade school, tomorrow will be the middle school and the high school, is about that whole process of disseminating information and then collecting information. That's a key component to this. So we get it. I'm not trying to discourage people from continuing to say that, but I don't want anybody to feel that we're sort of thinking about we're going to do the same thing this fall if we go red that we did last spring. Last spring we weren't prepared. It was unheard of. It was unprecedented. It's still unprecedented, But at least we now have a little bit of time to think about all of the pieces to that.
Thank you, Superintendent Hodgkin, sorry. I'm going to go to D, unless I hear otherwise. Students with disabilities, students who are English learners, students who are Black, Indigenous, and people of color, BIPOC, and other special populations may be particularly impacted. Does anyone have any, I'll start with you, Ms. Shumway. Any
Nope,
additional?
Nope.
Nope. Anybody else? Community included? I don't either. Ms. Fawcett, you're not being taxed a real lot here, just yet. There might be some people that just haven't had time to type in the question yet. Okay, I'm flipping pages. I'm at part 4. Pardon me. Common expectations for hybrid and remote learning models. Ms. Jenkins, I don't know what you mean by mentor families if needed. Oh, we talked about that today, didn't we? Ms. Jenkins and I spoke earlier today, and one of the things that she wanted to offer and make sure that we understood is, and I think we've heard it another place here, is that some families aren't in a position to help their student is essentially utilize the technology to the best of its ability. And I know that she has volunteered, but maybe we need to hear from parents who need help helping their child. So and our principals need to hear that from our parents who want that help. So I hope I've done your comment justice, Ms. Jenkins. Thank you. Okay. Part 4, common expectations for hybrid and remote learning models. Ms. Shumway.
Nothing new. Nope, everything's been added.
I just want to make sure that our community understands that, you know, they are in person and being taught Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and that teachers are supposed to give them assignments to do on Wednesday, but the teachers will not be available to the student on Wednesday. Wednesday will be a professional development day for teachers, but we also expect that it will be a student day. So every week, as long as it's a full week, every week there will be 5 student days. That's the plan right now. Okay, I think that over on page, Superintendent Hodgkin, over on page 15, on the 4th paragraph that starts with, we also expect families will pick an option and stay with the option. And I think we want to emphasize that a little bit. We don't want families going back and forth between options. That will make everything much more difficult. But I wondered if you wanted to add to that sentence for the semester. If that would be, because I think the intention is, if we're still doing this come January, that we will offer parents an opportunity to change their option. Is that correct?
I don't specifically remember that. I'm not opposed to that. But I
But I
don't
know
if-
we've discussed that we want parents to stick with their option for the
Yeah.
semester.
Well, I mean, realistically, the issue is about kids that are either homeschooled or remotely educated that want to come back to school. That has potential, if it happens a lot, to really disrupt the groupings. So if it goes the other way, we really don't care. I shouldn't say that. We're not as concerned. It's not going to be disruptive to the classrooms if they do that. So I don't specifically remember. Did you and I have that conversation, or the committee?
I think I don't know. I've had too many conversations. But I thought that was the intent of something that you said to me. So I was actually putting those words in, thinking that those are the words that you wanted.
No.
No, you don't want those?
I don't think it's necessary.
Okay, fine with me. Okay, I have a question. Okay, so Ms. Jenkins writes, mentor families if needed. Will families be able to link to work? Will they be able to link to work together on Wednesdays? Oh, I have no idea. Any technology people want to try with that? I don't know if that's even been a discussion, Ms. Jenkins. Mr. Delisle, do you want to talk to that, speak to that at all? Mr. Delisle just put his good-looking picture up there.
Sorry, I was trying to get to a quieter space without people. There
Sorry,
hasn't been any
Mr.
discussion that I'm aware of at this point in regards to that question as far as.
Is that
families
even a
connected.
possibility, technology-wise? And for those of you that don't know, Mr. Delisle is our technology coordinator for the school system.
I mean, it's a possibility. I'm just not sure what the ramifications are trying to share, families' information. I mean, I guess if,
Oh, yeah.
Some sort of group could be established that said they're willing to connect with other families, there could be some, whether it be a Google Meet or a Zoom meeting. I'm not sure who would facilitate or run that, but I mean, there's possibilities of something like that.
Well, something to think about then for sure. Thank you. Ms. Chang writes, why is two-day language added to this section? At the last meeting, it was specified that kids could move from in-person to remote seamlessly. For example, if a parent has COVID or if a student exhibits symptoms that are of concern. Can you explain this language? I'm going to let somebody look at the language, but I want to tell you that the intent is still there. But as a practice, we don't want parents, for no other reasons other than the ones that you used as an example, to just flip back and forth between remote and in person. But yes, because we have that capability, we don't want students who are quarantined for whatever reason to miss school when we have the capability of remote. So, Superintendent Hodgkins.
I just want to add to that that was kind of twofold. It really wasn't
kind of what?
It was kind of twofold. It wasn't just that. We were looking at, we didn't want people to feel like if they're sick and they were only going to be out for a day, they don't necessarily or wouldn't be expected to join in remotely. It's no different than being absent now or in non-COVID times. I think this was sort of a sense of, we don't want them to miss a great deal of instruction. So if they're going to be sick for beyond a day, 2 days or more, that they, essentially it's an invitation to invite them to join into the remote learning process. It's not intended to be an exclusion, it's supposed to be an inclusion.
I also think that as a healthcare team, we want to lower the barrier and improve. We don't want, if kids are sick, or if they're potentially sick, or if they're exposed to COVID, we want them to still be able to learn. We don't want them coming to school out of fear of missing things. And so if they can get some of that via remote, it will hopefully lower the barrier of being willing to stay home if sick or exposed.
Thank you, folks. Ms. Jenkins writes, and we're going back to the Wednesday linking together thinking, I think, group projects, etc. And yep, I think that Mike, Mr. Delisle has that to think about, what we can offer there, Ms. Jenkins.
Jenny?
Yes, Ms. Bells.
Is she talking between students? Because if that's the case, I believe they can do projects together through Google Classroom.
I think that she is talking between students on Wednesday. Can you give me a thumbs up there, Ms. Jenkins, if we've, yes,
Okay.
yes, we've interpreted that question correctly.
So there are ways for the students to work together through Google Classroom. Just wanted to let her know that.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Bells. Jesse Stover writes, Wednesday will have no teacher availability. That's correct. Who will be teaching the children on remote Wednesday? If schoolwork is expected on Wednesday, then who is expected to help children with schoolwork? The idea is that it will be more project-oriented work that will be given to your student for that Wednesday. Would anybody else like to chime in?
I would envision, just as a teacher, it would be work that kind of like, I don't want to call it homework, but homework. I mean, like if you were assigned a project or a worksheet or whatever to find information, since students would have that remote learning piece, technology and all that, they could work on those things. And I'm assuming teachers would do it for the most part, where kids could ask questions when they get back in class, or it would be something that kids might not have to ask a lot of questions about. That's what I anticipate doing, at least with my remote learners. So.
And I would just, the term I would use is kind of what Ms. Dykert is saying, is that it's independent practice. There's, even in regular school, is not regular instruction every single day. Sometimes it's one of the parts of learning where there's instruction, there's guided practice, and then there's independent practice. And our intention is that students will have a fair amount of, I would refer to as independent practice to work on at home.
Thank you very much. So I hope that helps. Jesse Stover, I hope that helps. Ms. Chang asked, thank you. I appreciate the clarification. It's important for it to be seamless, to encourage parents to keep symptomatic kids home without loss of learning time. Absolutely. Thank you. We agree. Ms. Jenkins writes, videos, museums, right, tours, virtual tours through museums, etc., are available for classes. And actually, if you have a chance, the internet is rich with positive educational things that our children will profit from. Ms. Riney, parents who work and will be sending their children to school may be concerned about when this is supposed to take place. since likely their children will be in childcare during the day. I agree. That's a very, that is a concern. I know that the whole idea of childcare is being remodeled somewhat, depending on your folks that are at childcare. And some of those folks that are in charge of the childcare, own the childcare, or offer the childcare are really trying to think about how they can support students who find themselves in childcare. So I know people are working on that, whether your child will be, whether you will be able to say your child care people are working on that, I don't know at this point in time. But I know that that too is evolving. Okay. Are we at the end? Oh no, we're on page 17. Adult ed. Are there any comments about adult ed that need to be considered? Okay. Career ed, career and technical ed. Going back to our remote folks, Matt asks, are remote learners somehow signing in for the day? Will all kids need to on Wednesdays? How will absentee days be counted, especially for remote learners? Well, that's a very good question, and I'm not sure that question is being asked quite a lot. And software is being evaluated to see if they have, that has the ability to help us with attendance. I'm going to let Superintendent Hodgkins work on answering that, because I know we've had discussions about it. So are you willing to take that, Superintendent Hodgkin?
I can, except that that's again one of those things that are on the plate, part of the discussion. Well, first of all, Wednesdays, we're not as long as we're doing remote learning, we're not doing attendance on that day. We don't have a process for checking in. But we are looking at, as you mentioned, at this, looking at possibility of software, looking what the capabilities of the platforms that we're using in the Google Suite and or Seesaw to see what that might do. And if not, we may have to do good old fashioned, see who's on, and then you check it off like we used to do in the old days of knowing who's there.
Thank you, Superintendent Hodgkin. I'm going to move to child nutrition. And before I move to child nutrition, can anybody tell me if Miss Weeks is on board with us at this time? Can I call on her if I need to? Guess not, okay. You can just call me Chef Geyer, and I'm going to answer all of your school nutrition questions. But maybe I won't have to answer any. Are you waving to me, Ms. Shumway?
Oh, I'm turning my mute on and off, and
oh, okay.
I have the camera, but I did ask for specifics about what lunch will look like, and I just wanted to, and even though it's not in the plan, the individual buildings have added that to what they've posted on their websites. What lunch will look like. So I don't feel like it needs to be added here.
Thank you. Any other folks want to add anything to school nutrition or child nutrition programs? All right, school health office. Anything that needs to be added there or talked about? I see Dr. McConnell's ready to go, although she might be taking a nap. Oh no, okay, there she is, all right. Okay. Any questions regarding the long form about school health office from anybody? Oh, woohoo! Okay, I'm going to move to transportation. Any questions, additions, comments, concerns, transportation? Ms. Shumway, let's start with you.
I'm all set with transportation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? So when I read this, I wrote a note that tonight I'm not always understanding all the notes I read. I wrote to myself. I wrote this note at the bottom of, is there only how many paragraphs? At the bottom of that first paragraph on page 19 of the form. And upon entering the bus, all students will be masked and use hand sanitizer. So apparently I was wondering if that statement should be added there. Would it help us be very clear with our parents if that statement was added? I guess that's a better way of putting it. What do you all think?
Larry's still on?
I'm not hearing.
Yeah, I'm here. Yep.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah,
Larry, did you hear my question?
I did. You were asking about adding a line about upon entering and exiting the bus, ensuring that there are masks and hand sanitizer.
Yeah, it's pretty much just a statement of our expectation. Upon entering the bus, all students will be masked and use hand sanitizer. Is that something that might be helpful to you?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I mean, that turns it into a directive. I mean, you're required to, you're required to wear a mask in school just like you are on a bus. So.
Right. I wanted to make sure it was included, that there would be absolutely no question from any of our community members. So I just offer that if you'd like to add it.
Yeah, and we actually just got some additional guidance or some leniency, I guess. As you know, anything to do with schools are highly regulated. School buses are regulated just as heavily, if not more. And so concerns about items that you place inside the cabin of the bus, are regulated for fire safety and damage and injury, that type of thing.
So did you want additional statements added to the transportation section?
Well, I see
what we have there now?
I see the superintendent has his hands up, and I certainly,
Yeah. Superintendent Hodgkin.
So I don't, it doesn't matter to me if we add that line. It's certainly very appropriate there, but I will draw your attention back to page 2, first paragraph. It says, students attending school in person will be required to wear face coverings at all times from the time they get on a bus until the time that the bus drops them off.
I agree. I obviously have to agree that that's there, but I thought here in the transportation section is.
I don't have any problem adding it. I just want people to know that it is in there already.
Yeah, I agree. I just want no wiggle room there for if people just go directly to transportation section looking for the answer to their question, I'd like for it to be there. Please.
Got it.
Unless there's a problem with it.
No problem.
Thank you. Anything else on transportation? Hang on, I'm getting some stuff here. From Miss Hooper, when will we get the bus schedule? Mr. Allen?
Yeah, actually, so we had some discussions about that today. I set a goal for having that completed by this coming Monday. And I feel pretty confident that, that we're going to make that happen.
And then how does the schedule get disseminated to parents?
Well, certainly we'll share it with the superintendent so it can be posted there. We always share a link, typically to the superintendent's post. We share a link on our Northeast Charter School Bus Services Winthrop Division Facebook page. And I think the superintendent has a couple of other types of advertising and getting the word out plans.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Allen and Ms. Hooper. I hope that answers your question. From CL, has there been any consideration for opening the school doors before 8 a.m. for student drop-off to help alleviate the number of students on the buses? You want to take that, Mr. Allen?
Well, in regards to what time they're opening the school doors, not so much, but the district has added 4 additional bus routes. We've reduced capacity on the buses, but we've increased the number of bus routes in an effort to maintain the ability to haul as many of the district students as possible.
But just by the sheer fact that there's a maximum of 23 on every bus,
Correct.
there will be fewer people getting off the bus at any one time. Superintendent Hodgkin, do you want to address the question about consideration for opening school doors before 8 a.m.?
I actually don't know what the answer to that would be. I do know that we're trying to, I know that the middle school and the high school are open before then, so that must be specifically a question for grade school. And I know Mr. Ladd is talking about, what we're trying to do is to figure out how to control the flow of students in and out of the building. I want to go add in the additional comment after about students being, or parents being encouraged to drop off or pick up their students. That's something there's some disagreement on. I think it's a good idea, but it particularly at the grade school where we have a very limited space for dropping off and picking up, it's going to create more congestion. But you know, I don't know how to answer the question about whether Mr. Ladd will be prepared to take students in before the other students get there.
CL, would you please put that in an email to Mr. Ladd? Give him some time to first figure out, and all of his staff to first figure out the answer to your question and then reply to you. But we don't have an answer to that question at this time. Moving on.
I do know that there are plans, you know, I think they've broken the student population up into 3 different types. You have your parent drop-offs, you have your walkers, and then you have your bus transportation. And I think there are plans for each of those groups at every building. And I know that bus transportation, we've talked about staggering the delivery. And so we have changed the bus arrival times to better accommodate parent drop-offs and walkers during the traditional drop-off hours. So adjustments have been made, but they've been made more along the lines of the bus service. So less of a change in the norm to the general population, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Chandra writes, can we add masks to buses in case a child forgets? I'd hate to see a child get left to pick up because of no mask. And are we encouraged more so to drop off or pick up? Oh, so as a school system, are we encouraging parents to, in order to alleviate crowding on the buses, I think is what is being asked, are we encouraging parents like some other school systems are doing to pick up and drop off their students? And Mr. Allen?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
about masks on buses? I think we're going to have some, right?
Yep, absolutely, yeah. And I know that Superintendent and I will be, working on his PPE supplies and exactly how we're going to administer that. But that was kind of a given from the beginning, that we just can't turn somebody away at the bus stop for something that we could so simply fix.
Right. And I think that we are not at this time as a school system encouraging parents to pick up and drop off. Am I correct there, Superintendent Hodgkin?
No, I'm not. I'm not specifically encouraging them. I would not discourage parents from picking up and dropping off. We're going to be tight on the buses. We're limiting them to 23 students because they have to be properly distanced. So I personally would encourage parents to pick up and drop off their students, but they're going to have to. It's going to be a challenge at the grade school where the space to drop off and pick up is really limited, and primarily with the 4 additional bus runs, having more parents dropping their kids off in that area will potentially cause a mess.
Mr. Ladd, I see that you came back to us. We're happy to go on from where we are, but I don't want to ignore you if you wanted to make a comment.
Well, I could just let you know roughly what the plan is. So we will be sticking to our traditional times, which is doors open at 8:10. The buses will be unloading later than they have in the past. So we will be allowing students that are walking or parent drop-offs, both along Highland Avenue and in the bus loop before the buses actually get there. So we'll have at least probably 20 minutes for drop-off in the front of the school before buses arrive to unload. It is a major challenge at the grade school to manage that traffic. I personally am not encouraging the drop-off pickup route just because of that traffic flow, but we will make it work.
Thank you, Mr. Ladd. Mass pride. We will walk as much as possible. Chandra says we will walk as much as possible. Okay, thank you. I think we've gotten through all 20 some odd pages. Anything else? Because I want to vote on this tonight, school committee people. I'd like us to vote on this tonight. I have one general question for anybody on the committee. Has there been a discussion about how much longer the committee is going to go on? You know, I hope they want to. Being on the committee should not be a life sentence. However, you know, you're the best folks to keep evolving the plan as we learn more about the virus and as we learn about maybe better ways to do things that we've talked about tonight. So has there been any talk from the committee about where this committee is going after tonight?
Well, we did talk today about, well, first of all, we talked about we need to negotiate a raise, but we'll talk about that later. That's
right after the school committee raise.
Right,
Yep.
right.
Okay, yeah.
But seriously, we did talk about, we set a next meeting, and I think last Wednesday, we talked about this, and because I misinterpreted what the committee was saying in terms of meeting. But I think that now there's sort of a sense of, as you've been hearing me say, and I'm sure for some of the community, it's really frustrating that there are a lot more questions to ponder. And so we have our next meeting planned for, I think it's September 9th. And that will be after we have our first student day on the 8th for 1 through 12. And then our first process and planning day on Wednesday. And so our committee is going to meet after that because we think we'll have a lot of information about what we've learned. And then we'll process that. And you know, I don't think anybody is thrilled about the notion of staying, keeping this committee going for, you know, forever. But at the same time, I think as long as there's work that we need to do, it's a really good group in terms of representation from the community and the schools and everybody. So I think we're at this point, we're kind of taking it, my sense, we're taking it kind of one meeting at a time.
I appreciate that because it strikes a little bit of fear in my heart to think that the accumulated knowledge of the folks in this committee would be somehow or another disbanded and not be made available to us almost immediately when we need that help. I mean, I'm sure there's going to come up, a question will come up about a COVID positive person and or family member, and we're going to need the continued guidance, I think, of the folks on the committee to work through a lot of that. So I want to thank you all for volunteering to stay on the committee. So thank you very much, Ms. Bells. Take it away.
I just wanted to say that the people on the committee realized pretty quickly that we probably would have to meet after school starts, and everybody was willing to do that for as long as we need to at that point.
So for the rest of for all the other folks on the school committee, you know, a huge thank you to all of the people on the steering committee for getting us as far as we are now and for guiding us as we move forward. So thank you. I'm going to read a few more. Ms. Hooper says, I'd love it if the school board meetings can continue to be offered by Zoom for people who have family commitments that keep them from attending in person. And I'll just speak to that really quickly. The school committee felt very strongly initially that we wanted to lead by example. And so we thought that if we were going to ask our students and our teachers to go back to school, then we should have in-person meetings. That took an about face at the last Wednesday meeting when we had over 90 people in attendance. We would never be able to accommodate even a half of that number in the large conference room because of the physical distancing mandates. And we were so excited that we had 90 plus people in attendance to the meeting that we would continue to do the Zoom because it accommodated so many more people in our community, which is exactly what we want to do. So yes, we agree with you. And I can't speak forever, but I think that we're pretty happy with this particular mode for this time, trying to get our school started again. Will school days be full day? I've read that some schools in the area are dismissing at 1 or so in school days. Yep, some schools are trying to condense their days. At the moment, I think we're going for full days, but I'll let Superintendent Hodgkins address that.
That's our plan right now. I think the school committee has done a great job of responding to the wishes of the community, and obviously it's not unanimous. We've heard some dissenters in this, last meeting and this meeting. But we're one of the very few schools that are allowing 100% of the students who want to return in person to do that. The majority of schools are not. And at this point, the school committee has provided the Wednesday for process and planning. So I think they took into consideration the needs of the teachers and the staff who are working with the students. So I don't foresee that that we'll be looking to make that change to shorten our day.
Ms. Fitzgerald says, yep, full days. So trying to help answer that question. Thank you. How will school pickups work? I think that has to be specific by building. Anybody want to help with that?
No, I think that's the right answer. It's and related to that, and I'm surprised somebody hasn't asked this. We're not, and it's in the plan that generally speaking, we're trying to keep the community out, which sounds really not positive to say that. But if a parent wants to come pick their child up, there's a process for doing it. If they want to pick them up at the end of the day, they'll figure out a routine for that. But if they want to pick them up, if they want to pick them up at the end of the day, there'll be a routine for that. If they want to pick them up during the school day for an appointment or because they're not feeling well, then there'll be a process that'll be posted at each of the main offices' doors about how to contact the office and give permission for the child to be released, and then they will be released without the parent coming in, but it will be supervised.
Thank you. That was great. Chandra, hey, thank you very much. Nicely run meeting. Thanks for all of your time to allow us to be informed. And it's our pleasure. I hope that it comes through loudly and clearly that we're all invested in making this work as best we can. And a big portion of that is appropriate communication with the folks that we're serving. So thank you for that. And Ms. Breer writes, Zoom meetings are great. Agreed. Thank you, Superintendent Jim. All school committee members and steering committee team effort has not gone unnoticed. Thank you. Ms. Kelly Dugal writes, would it be helpful for the schools to know if you are able to drop off your kiddos in the morning, therefore eliminating transportation need in the morning? Is our transportation department that nimble for that to be helpful? Mr. Allen, what do you think?
Don't I look nimble?
You do. I've always said that about you, Mr. Allen.
I'm like Felix the cat, man. You just give me 900 kids and I'll put the puzzle together. So,
yeah. But Ms. Dugal is wondering, if she is able to drop her student off, would it be helpful to you to let you know that, or you're going to make the same run no matter what?
We are supposed to build ourselves so we can accommodate all children. But yeah, I mean, as much communication as possible. It kind of goes both ways. It's the chicken and the egg, or the cart and the horse, right? How much information can the parent give us about what they're doing and if they're coming, and the parents waiting for us to give them as much information so they can make an informed decision. So decisions about transportation, I kind of have to put the plan together to accommodate everybody, but as much information as you can share with your individual school secretaries or principals and let them know that you either need transportation or you don't need transportation. Any solid information is always best. We take that stuff into consideration as we're putting our plans together for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah.
Elizabeth writes, a grade school pickup at school used to be the gym pickup, right? I think she's just informing us. I hope that there's no question embedded in that, Elizabeth. And Miss Riney writes, thank you for all of your thoughtful hard work. I'm glad committee meetings will continue using Zoom. Yep. And thank you for that. Are we, school committee, are we prepared? Well, first off, I can't remember now. Did we get a motion out to approve this before we
tabled
entered into, pardon me?
You tabled it last time.
Yeah, but I wonder if right now, did we get a motion out before I started the discussion? I don't think I did.
No, but I would like to make a motion.
Okay. Well, I would love for you to too. Go for it, please.
I move to approve the Winthrop Public Schools educational plan for the 2021 school year, long form, August 19th, 2020 version with additions.
Second.
And Joe, I saw you make motions, but I didn't hear you.
I was just making sure that Janet seconded that.
Oh, he's
Your
checking
turn.
on you, Jana.
Your turn.
Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome. You deserve it.
So I, with some trepidation, ask if there's any discussion on this motion.
I think we've had sufficient discussion.
All right, I think so. Okay, I'll call the roll. Ms. Shumway.
Yes.
Mr. Petrosky.
Yes.
Ms. Dykett.
Yes, and thank you to everyone who did the work.
Ms. Bells.
Yes.
Ms. Geyer, yes. Motion passes unanimously. Oh, I loved hitting it that time. Again, you know, I don't know how much more sincere I can sound to try to convey the school committee's thank you for all of the anguish, angst, stress, time that the committee has put into getting our school this far. Thank you so very much for sharing all of your various skills and expertises to get us here. We appreciate it. Any other public comment? This is part of the agenda where the public is permitted to bring up any comment having to do with Winthrop education. It doesn't have to be about the long form. It doesn't have to be about COVID. It could be something else. We can't promise that we can address it, but we can promise that we will talk about it in the future. Larry writes, while I'm waiting for anything to come through, that he's very happy to help. And I can say that about Northeast Charter. At all times, they are very happy to help, and they're quite a fine community member with us. Ms. Hooper writes, when will we get supply lists from our teachers? Any of the principals want to take a stab at that one? Mr. Ladd, I see your square light up.
Yeah, great. The teacher letters went out, what's today, Wednesday. They went in the mail yesterday, all except for one class went this morning. So you should receive it in the mail by tomorrow.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell, I see you come back.
I am here. So at the
and we can hear you too.
At the high school, we actually have generated a back-to-school supply list based upon the grade level that students are in, and we will be mailing that home with the packet that we normally send home, plus the packet that Dr. McConnell put together for us.
And do you have any idea on time when that will be sent out?
So, yeah, I have a plan to utilize my teachers tomorrow to get the envelope stuffed and put in the mail tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Miss Chris, I don't know if you're still with us or not, if you want to address that question. So
someone said they received middle school supply lists last week.
Yeah, I can say that we did. Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you for that help. Oh, right there. It says from Shelley, we received middle school supply list last week. So I hope that helps, answers your question, Ms. Hooper. Anything else? Going once? Going twice?
Hold on,
Ms.
there's a new
Hooper?
question.
Ms. Hooper says, at the last meeting, there was discussion about sending forms in advance of school starting. Are those coming with teacher lists? What building does Ms. Hooper represent? So I can ask the right principal.
Grade school.
Grade school. Mr. Ladd?
No, there's a letter from Mrs. Randall and myself. There are the color printed CDC safety guidelines that came out from the committee and the individual teacher letter.
So no actual forms. I would imagine that she might be referring to the form that parents are supposed to check their students. Is that what she might be referring to?
We will have the free and reduced forms and emergency forms, and all of that will go home as usual on the first day of school with the kids.
Okay. And then the COVID related stuff is.
That's part of that
on,
CDC.
on our website. I'm sorry, Ms. Spells?
I think that's part of the CDC information that Mr. Ladd was referring to. Is that correct, Mr. Ladd?
Yes.
Okay. Matthew writes, will there be an open house night this year? And I imagine that, well, that could be any one of the buildings. Mr. Ladd is indicating no.
No.
Mr. Campbell is indicating no. Will there, okay, and guessing no. Yes, you're correct, guessing no. Anything else? How many people do we still have with us?
50.
50, wow.
Wow.
I want to thank our community for joining us this evening. And I don't know if I said that 2 weeks ago when we were over the 90s, but I appreciate it and I hope that it's been helpful for you. We'll continue to try to be as helpful as we can so that we can all work together to make this work. At this time, I'll take a motion for adjournment. Ms. Bells?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Ms. Shumway?
Yes.
Mr. Petrosky?
Yes.
Ms. Dykett?
Yes.
Ms. Bells?
Yes.
Unanimously, we are adjourned. And it's only 8:54. Oh,
Wow.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Right.
Great work, everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.